Hey everyone, Scary Norris here. Now today is a bit of fun, a bit of isolation fun. Now I'm going to include this in the extensibility series because it plays in part to extensibility and sort of showing what's available. Now in the past couple of videos you may have noticed the thing on the wall. Now at the end of this video I'll actually show you what's inside of it, and it's something that I 3D printed on my artillery sidewinder, which is really awesome, and it's something that I made. So it's running a particle IO, a Photon particle IO, some other electronics in there, and some neopixels, right? And obviously it's got a magnetic front, so I can pull the front off and change it however I want. Now at the moment it's just running in default. It's just a rainbow. It's showing everything great, but I want to actually get it involved in part of my deployments. Right? So this will be very interesting. So if everything works correctly, and it should, is that if I deploy to AWS, that should start cycling orange during the deployment. And if everything gets to the end and it's finished okay, it should go back to just rainbow. If I deploy to Azure, it should be cycling blue. And if it deploys okay, everything should be fine. And if I deploy to vSphere, it should cycle green and then return back to rainbow. Now if the deployment was to error or fail for anything, it should start flashing red and going a bit crazy. So let's see if this actually works, and then I'll show you how while the provisioning is happening, how it actually works, right? What's running behind the scenes to make this happen. Alright, so let's actually go from the service catalog. Now I'm going to do another series on the service catalog, because the service catalog, which is service broker, is very, very powerful, especially with custom forms. Get into that, but I've just got some basic ones, and let's request a hello world one here, right? So deployment name, we'll go AWS Neo, Project Z, platform AWS, yep, submit. So if everything goes well, that sign at the back should start going yellow, orange and white, hopefully. Let's see where it goes. Create in progress. There it is. So it's actually working. So that's going, yeah, as we said, it's cycling AWS orange and white, and that'll progress until it's finished. And completion, and we can see that, there it is. Yay, got it. So this one is going back to rainbow. Now that's complete. Let's do it again. Let's go to catalog. Let's go again. Request the same one. Go Azure. Oop, Neo. Go to Azure. Submit. Alright, same thing, except it should cycle blue. There it goes. So it's cycling blue and white now, going to Azure, which is cool. So when that's done, it'll go back to rainbow again. Alright, so that's now finished. It's gone back to rainbow, which is cool. So it's finished the deployment, the machine provisioning. It's just finishing off the deployment now. And if we go back to catalog and do vSphere, vSphere, submit. Hopefully fingers crossed, it starts cycling green. There it goes. So it's cycling green now, which is awesome. Means it's working. And now I'll just, while this goes through, I'll just show you, okay, well, how am I doing this? And then we'll do a failure, right? So let's have a look. Let's go back to here and go to extensibility. So what I did initially, and again, this could be refined, right? This is just me playing in my lab, is that I've got a couple actions. So the way I did it was that I'm publishing to a MQTT, which is, for those in IoT, is used quite a bit as a message queue system to be able to send data between devices and do automation and home automation and stuff like that. So I'm pushing it to an MQTT queue, saying that, you know, this is what I'm provisioning. And obviously I've got my code as well that's on the Photon, which is enabling this capability to happen, right? So I want to do a publish. So this is just a unique publish. So not unique, what's the best way to put it? Agnostic publish. So essentially I'm accepting, or I'm relying on payload to be brought in, and that payload is going to contain the status that I want, the queue that I want, as well as the server that I want. So this way, this will work no matter what, right? So okay, I've got my publish, and I've got to feed it in that data. Now I've got to get that data. So that particular data here is I've got a couple. So and just based on what's happening. So if we look at pre-deployment, no, not flow, sorry. That's the putting them together. If you look at provisioning payload, so this is when it gets provisioned. We can see I've just put these as inputs here, but these could obviously be used to actually change when I wanted to. That's my server. That's the particular queue that I want it to go into. And we can see here that I'm making my payload here, and I'm actually submitting that in my outputs as under an MQTT property, right? So that's attached to the properties, and that's what I use as part of the payload, part of the publish, sorry. So I take that in, and you can see that I'm actually using payload, which if we have a look at the payload here, is inputs, custom properties, MQTT. And I've just made that a variable payload, and then I use that as a property throughout the script. Then we also have provisioning finish payload. So finish payload, and this is purely because of the data that I have. I just go, look, I just want it to be finished. So I'm putting this status code in here, but everything else is the same. I could break this up even more and have more, but I thought, look, let's just keep it a little bit simpler to work with. Plus, I was just prototyping this stuff, and then I've got the failed MQTT failed, because I'm running, and I'll show you this, is because I'm doing a subscription on the deployment. I don't have that server level properties, right? So I'm creating things there. So let's have a look at this. I've created these flows. We can see that we've got a failed workflow, post-deployment flow, and a pre-deployment flow. And these flows are then associated with these. So we can see the failed deployment. I'm actually using it on deployment completed lifecycle event, but I'm looking for the status of that event to be failed, right? So I don't really care while it fails. I just want to know that it's failed, right? And that's what it does. So I then put the MQTT failed flow in there, which, as we'll have a look at this, runs MQTT failed, and then just the agnostic publish, right? I'm just calling that, and that's the failed payload. And if we go back and have a look at our pre-deployment, so obviously we want to run, I'm running this on compute allocation. So I'm gonna, as soon as it, before it allocates, I want that thing to trigger, right? So we're already starting in, and at that time, you know, the deployment can fail and other things. Deployment could fail before this point, which I'll actually demonstrate before, but it doesn't really matter the failure. It's still going to come up here no matter what deployment, right? So I'll do compute allocation. I could do it sooner than that if I wanted to. And then just because I don't want to run on every single blueprint that I've got, I've just put a custom property that I assign to, so I just have it triggered on very specific ones, right? I run the flow, which again is just the provisioning payload. So basically creating that payload for the MQTT publish. That's all it is, right? And then we've got post-deployment flow. So basically this is when everything is successful. I'm doing compute post-provision. Now I could do it on deployment provision too. That doesn't really matter. I just had this chosen because once you choose it, you can't change it. I was like, oh, it was fine. I'll leave it there. And this will run on any. Like I haven't got a filter here because at the end of the day, it won't actually change the function of that, even if it triggers, because its default function is to rainbow. And then again, the flow is very similar, except we're doing the MQTT finish payload, which just creates the payload to put in a publish, right? And all it's using is those particular strings to be able to set this off, and that thing is looking for those strings, right? To action. So if you have a look at those action runs, we'll actually be able to see all these run as actually got quite a few because these are executing against create statement ServiceNow CIs as well. But we can see that we've had the on-prem ones. We go finish payload, so that finished then. We can see that we've got the pre-deployment payload, ran it there, and then we've got the and that's the post-deployment one of the one before, and so forth. So they're all executing. I'm running these on-prem. Now if we actually have a look at, I'll show you this, and I probably didn't point it out, for the publish, because I don't need it for everything else, is I've got a dependency. So we got the MQTT library essentially installed. So putting the dependency over here, now I think I've discussed this before, dependencies are differently laid out. They're in a more of a properties object if they're a Node.js, but here they're literally a text file, one line after the other with what you want. And this is the equivalent of me doing pip install PAHO MQTT, right? That's basically what it's doing. It's making sure that library, that installable, is there available as part of the container that's spun up for me to be able to use this import, right, and then be able to execute that. Alright, so I'll discard that because I don't want to do anything, and I'm running it on-prem because my MQTT is on-prem, and a Lambda or a Azure function wouldn't be able to reach it because it's not internet facing. Right. So we have this, so okay, let's have a look at, so that all went through fine with my deployments. Let's actually just terminate one. So I have to make one fail on purpose. Now I'll run this one here. I'm pretty sure already, we can see here I've put an error in the tag there, so I don't have, that's not going to match, so it should fail pretty damn quickly. Let's deploy this. Deployment name MQTT fail, and blueprint version current draft, next, fail, deploy. Alright, so this should then trigger that action to run, and it should start twinkling red if I've done it right. Oh, that's failed. And hopefully they're running now. Oh, there it goes on the back. So it looks like that worked. Yep. So it's not exactly clear. Not in this light anyway, but it's all gone a bit dead. So now I know there's a problem. Very cool. Alright, so let's now just have a quick look at what's inside this thing. Let's go and have a look. So this is errored, but we can see that I've made this sheet, so it's nice and flexible. Within here we've got our neopixels going around, and then down here we've got the little photon. I do have the power going up. I did have batteries down the side here, but they went flat pretty quick, and I've got to rejig that situation there. That's a logic converter on the side there, because there's a 3 volt going to 5 volt signal for the neopixels, and that's a step down converter there, taking the mains, the higher voltage into a 5 volt voltage. But that's it. So this is all 3D printed, and yeah, just a little ISO project. So let's put that back on. Cool. Awesome. So I hope you enjoyed. Nice bit of fun, but also showing at the same time the cool stuff you can do with extensibility when you really want to, right? And you can literally expand to anything. Hope you enjoyed. Stay safe out there. Until next time, see you later. Bye.